Hello, I'm Sue Stockdale, and welcome to this special Year in Review episode of Access to Inspiration podcast. As we wrap up another incredible year, it's a perfect time to pause, reflect, and celebrate what we've accomplished together over the last 12 months. One of the accolades that we're really proud of this year is being a silver winner in the 3rd Annual Signal Awards in the Most Inspirational Podcast category. The Signal Awards set a standard for editorial excellence by honouring the organisations, storytellers and artists who are shaping the podcasting industry. And in the summer, we published our second Impact Report, showing the impact that this podcast has on our guests, our listeners, and the wider podcasting community. Over the last 12 months, we've had the privilege of bringing you 27 diverse and thought-provoking episodes from voices around the globe. People who have challenged us to be humble, think differently, and broaden our horizons. We've explored a fascinating range of topics, from personal resilience to leadership in uncharted territory, and from sourcing sustainable timber to exploring the world by bicycle. Along the way, we've uncovered the wisdom of adventurers, innovators, and change makers who've inspired us to look beyond our immediate surroundings and embrace new possibilities. We'll take a moment to revisit the highlights, key insights, and memorable moments that made this year's journey so rewarding, including some practical tips on how to encourage openness in your team and how to embrace intuition. Whether you've been with us from the beginning or you've just discovered Access to Inspiration, this is a celebration of what we've built together, a podcast fueled by curiosity and a shared desire to learn, reflect, and grow. As always, you can find a transcription of this and all the episodes over on our website, accesstoinspiration.org. Let's dive in and reflect on the stories that moved us, challenged us, and ultimately inspired us to see the world and ourselves in new ways. I asked my co-founder Clive, who was also guest host on episode 120, to reflect on what was his favourite episode from the year.
There were so many great episodes, it's hard to really pick one out at the cost of missing some of the others. But for me, the one episode that moved me most was a story rich in honesty, modesty, and positivity. And that story was Mark Fletcher's journey, which you can hear in episode 136, Creating an Esports Team. To hear and feel how the family values that Mark held and have guided him through challenging times, from the undramatic yet so painful recovery from the loss of his mother to the inspiration and naivety around beginning iRacing on a race car simulator, was really quite profound for me. Not only has Mark demonstrated in a very humble way his driving skills and competitiveness, he also used the creation of this team as an opportunity for others to join with him, and they themselves could develop, such that this team today is a truly world-class esports team which goes up against some of the best professional drivers in the world. But put aside the performance of driving these racing simulators, the other thing for me with what Mark has done is he's created within this team an organisation in which they've developed values built on Mark's family values. The team is diverse across 5 countries, and yet in it they are all prepared to question, challenge and support each other, and perhaps most importantly, to go into the unknown if they believe it's going to help to develop themselves. And very often, in developing themselves, the team has also been developed. And I think it's this mixture of performance in terms of competitiveness and performance in terms of heartfelt desire to help others be the best that they can be, which is what has truly inspired me to look again at what I do and how could I do it better. So I have a big vote of thanks to Mark Fletcher.
Another key member of our team is our sound editor, Matias, and he talked about the episode that had the greatest impact on him.
Well, really, as Clive said, it's really hard to choose one episode. There are lots and lots of inspiring moments and inspiring people. So I won't say I'll be choosing my favorite, but I will be choosing one that I really liked, especially liked, between many others. And this is episode 124 from series 17, the interview to Neil Whitewick. This resonated especially with me, honestly. That's why I'm choosing it. He uses teaching sports to children as a way to give them tools to manage their way through life, as I understand it. He sees in sports something else than just sports, but a way of getting a better way of life to improve mental and physical well-being. It's almost like an excuse to teach so many things through something that is great in itself and that it's a passion for him and for everyone that does it. So I think it's a great way to reach children and to leave them something that will really be significant to their lives and to their future. I made a relation between this and music teaching. This is why this resonated with me, because I teach music in an orchestra for kids, which has the same goal, which is basically giving them music as a tool, as a professional tool or professional experience if they want to follow that path, but mainly as a way of giving them lots of other things. It's a way to learn to work with others, to focus, which is really necessary these days and really hard to find time for the kids to focus in one activity for more than 5 minutes. This way they need to focus for a long time, a whole rehearsal, work in a team, work with others, look to improve themselves and have fun and find a passion that they can have this passion for life and apply this passion in different things, not just in music, but then they can apply it whatever they do, whatever job they do, whatever relations they take, whatever activities they do. And as Neil says, it's the same, right? This is what his passion is. So he used this passion as his way to give this to the kids. My passion is music and sound, and I use music as a tool, as a way to transmit this passion to new generations, but for them to use them in all the aspects of their lives.
I've had many wonderful conversations during the last year, and one of the aspects that several guests reflected on was how we can embrace failure as a way to grow and learn, which is a concept that can be scary. In episode 120, the astronaut Robert Thirsk reflected.
Failure is not something to be hidden or backed away from. Astronauts embrace failure. When we, as a crew, make a mistake, we all rush in to try to find out where was the mistake made and how can we as a team improve the following time.
For Robert and the other astronauts, failure in their world isn't just a possibility, it's a critical part of progress. And this idea isn't limited to space missions. For athletes, the fear of making mistakes is a daily reality, as Danielle McDonough talked to me about in episode 123, when she spoke about the power of mindset on athletic performance.
That fear of failure as an athlete growing up was always there every single day. Sometimes from the moment I woke up, I knew I had a game that day. I fear making mistakes, fear letting the team down, fear making that one mistake that's going to cost us the game. Very real, very scary too, if it gets out of control. The work that I do with my athletes, it's about reframing that a little bit. If we're not making mistakes, if we're not failing, then ultimately we're not really growing because we learn in making these mistakes. And so when we can adjust that mindset for ourselves, it makes it a lot less scary. It takes a little bit of a weight off of our shoulders. There was a soccer player who was quoted as saying, I knew to get to that next level, I needed to make a boatload of mistakes. So what did I do? I got to work making those mistakes as fast as I possibly could. Because she knew in making those mistakes, she was going to grow faster, which means she's going to hit that next level faster. And so when you think about it that way, it just changes things in your mind.
But let's face it, embracing failure is easier said than done. It requires not only courage, but also self-awareness and openness to change. I particularly like what Keith Sharpe, Head of Coaching and Leadership Development at British Cycling, had to say in episode 139, where he shared a lovely example of a practical exercise to use with a team to foster openness.
We're all carrying a story, and to normalise that rather than to hide away from that is really important. Something that's really cool for us that I'm really proud of in a work situation is a little card that we've created, and it's got 3 words on. I've borrowed the idea from What 3 Words, and everyone in our team has got 3 words. So my words are playful, quiet, and fresh. And the reason I've got those 3 words is the questions that I ask people is, how do you feel when you're flying and at your best? Describe that in 1 word. So for me, that's playful. When I'm not at my best, what would people notice about you? For me, it's being quiet. If I'm quiet and I'm humming, that's a real alarm call. And then what helps you get back to your best in 1 word? And that would be, for me, fresh. So that's fresh air from a run, a ride, a walk with someone, whatever it might be, but it's not being inside. And those 3 words have really helped shape relationships. They've also helped shape strategy. They've helped shape lots of stuff. Such a simple idea has helped create more normalness within the environment, which is awesome.
And of course, when failure happens or we step into the unknown, it's important for us to be able to regulate our nervous system, which can help us respond rather than react. I found it very thought-provoking, the practical exercise that Eveline van den Heuvel talked about in episode 135, where she reflected on how to embrace intuition and creativity.
There are so many ways of regulating the nervous system so that you can help yourself shift from what we say, the fight, flight, or freeze system to the rest and digest system. And in that rest and digest, then there's this openness to access the things that go otherwise unnoticed. And that's true for the things that you might notice in your environment, but it's also true for the information that you will receive around yourself, somebody else. I like to work with a little method that was developed by William Whitecloud, where you use a circle, like a defined space. So you might put a question that you have that you don't have an answer to yet, and you write it down and you put a circle around it. And from that place of openness, in that parasympathetic nervous system state, you ask your intuition that question. And the idea is to let go of the need to know. So you don't think your way towards the answer. You might get an impulse. You might get an image. You might get a sound or a sense. You can also just leave it for a moment and just go with whatever comes up later. The element that's really important is to let go of the question, how? It's because we let go of the cognitive challenge or contraction around it and something else appears. So write it in a little circle, find a way to regulate your nervous system, write it in a circle, and go with whatever comes up. And allow yourself to play and to use your imagination. What does this mean? If I get a funny image, what does that image mean to me? And go with that.
There's been so many useful and insightful learning points that I've taken from our wonderful guests this year. I think my favourite episode was the conversation I had with David Smith on episode 134, which left me thinking deeply about how I use my time.
I always say be where your feet are. That for me is such a big thing, to be in the present moment. I feel like it's cliche to say that be where your feet are, that's where the magic happens, and try to connect more to nature. Impermanence, there's a thing called memento mori, which is a meditation of your own death. And if you're born and you're lucky to live to 80, you're given 4,000 weeks. I think that's 920 months. We're spend 23 years of those 4,000 weeks asleep, and then so many hours a day in a queue, so many hours a day scrolling, that turns into years. So then it leaves us with this window of maybe 20 years where you can really do the stuff that lights us and makes us passionate. And that's if you're lucky to get 4,000 weeks. Not many of us get that. So then we have even less time to fulfill things that really light us and create that burning feeling in our bodies that we love what we do. And I truly believe that trying to find something in life that you love what you do is super important.
So the overriding reflection for me this year is that failure and impermanence are inseparable from growth and passion. To hide from one is to miss out on the richness of the other. And that's what we've done this year. We've tried some new things, we've experimented. Some of those experiments have worked, some of them have been less successful. But we followed our passion, our desire to bring out the brilliance in our guests and to inspire more people in this world. So I'd like to invite you in 2025 to lean into the unknown for yourself, follow your passion, and see where it takes you. Please help us spread the word about this podcast so that more people can be inspired. You can do this by sharing an episode or leaving a review for us on the podcast platform that you're listening to it on. We'll be back in the spring with Series 20 and more inspiring guests for you. Until then, of course, hop on over to our website at accesstoinspiration.org and you have over 140 episodes to enjoy.